We're back. It's Talkin Money with Jeff Tarbell.
All right, welcome back. We survived our first 15 minutes without Jeff Tarbell in the studio. We must sound pretty good at this point. So.
Yeah, I'm thinking Jeff's probably on his way back from his anniversary right now, just to reclaim his position.
He's actually skiing this weekend, so he's up there. You know what? Here's something for you, listeners. If you happen to be driving to North Star and still get the signal up Highway 80 there, if you see Jeff in a ski line, go up to him and tell him you want Gym Boys. Okay, give him a business card, give him your name. And I will personally guarantee that. How's that? I will personally guarantee that you get a Gym Boys lunch out of that.
So you just created a bunch of Jeff stalkers. So
yeah, but he's so ugly. No one's going to know who he is.
Taco stalkers.
Anyway, hey, we did get a winner. What was our quiz question again, Brad?
It was either name the low in the stock market back in May of 2008 or or the date that the stock market was down at its lowest.
So we just almost hit 13,000. We ended at about, what, 12,989, somewhere around there.
Right,
and
just below 13.
So the lowest it was back in March of 2009.
2009.
And what did we drop to?
65.47.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was quite something. I remember because of what I do for a living now, our phone was ringing off the hook, to say the least.
Right, we're gonna definitely talk more about that. Let me take a quick call here. I've had Justin holding patiently. Justin, are you there?
Yeah, yeah.
Great, go ahead.
How you doing, guys? Thanks for taking my call, and I want to thank you for using your platform to mention about that situation with the mountain lion being hunted. And the reason is because that he legally hunted that mountain lion in another state where it's legal, and they're asking for his resignation. That's not a political situation. Just because this Huso doesn't believe in that gives him no right to put as a politician to ask for somebody else's resignation. It's not a political issue. If you don't agree with hunting, then don't hunt. If you do agree with it, hunt legally. And it was his right to post that picture. So he did nothing wrong. It was his right to post a picture of that mountain lion that he hunted legally. So I think every American that doesn't want politicians to tell them what they can and cannot do should stand up right now and ask for Huso's resignation.
Right. Well, I appreciate. I agree.
Yeah, I do too.
I do. Thanks for the call, Justin. Hey, let's put you back on hold. I'm going to get you some Gym Boys with some beef tacos.
Oh,
there you go.
Nice.
There you go, Jim. All right. Thanks, Justin.
Didn't we also have a winner on the trivia?
We did. Go ahead.
Was it Mike?
It was Mike.
Mike, okay.
Yep. We got to make a note of this. Next time we do a call-in, right?
We should give the number?
We should probably give the number. But see, then you get the faithful. You get the faithful that know it's 339-1140 or 1-800-920-1140. And the faithful probably already have it in their phone.
That's right. And so Mike should win double, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, in the studio today, and real happy to have Troy Milburn in. He is president of Certified ADA Consultants, Inc., company out of Granite Bay.
Right, Granite Bay.
Yeah, Granite Bay. And I said earlier in the show that I had met you at a Christmas party and talked a little bit with you about what you did. And the ADA, I mean, there's a history behind it. There's a story. We all hear about the squeeze in, but help us kind of lay out the foundation for, what is the ADA issue and why do we need to even be involved in it?
Well, kind of basically what's going on out there is, California's been hit with tens of thousands of accessibility lawsuits just in the past few years alone. Like you mentioned, the squeeze in is, locally one of the most famous suits that happened here in Sacramento, but it's a statewide problem. Businesses, and it's not just one individual. There are dozens of people, even groups now going around businesses. We call them I like to call them like drive-by lawsuits. Individual can go down a street, Madison Avenue, look to their left, see a parking lot that maybe isn't striped correctly or has non-compliant ramps, and you can pretty much see that from the street.
So this is all based on what, a Senate bill, a law? What is the ADA? What are we talking about?
Well, ADA is Americans with Disabilities Act, and most of these lawsuits are are filed based on a discrimination, not being able to access the same access or experience the same accommodations that able-bodied person would be able to enjoy.
So we're talking about parking spaces, ramps, doors,
Yeah,
chairs, everything.
Yeah, those are the most common. But you'll have interior restrooms. I mean, I get people calling me up. We just got served a lawsuit because our mirror was too high in our bathroom. Well, typically there's a lot more going on than just that mirror being too high. But that's kind of what's going on up there.
Is there a bit of a loophole? Because to me, you see all these lawsuits getting filed with little or no notice to the property owner or the business, and you see business people that have been around for years and years and years. The Squeeze In, of course, was a local poster child for that, but even little shops and what have you, where mom and pop are trying to make a living and they just get shut down and sued out of business with little or no notice. So what's being done about that?
Well, basically is what state of California, they recognize they've got a big problem going on here. They've basically allowed individuals or business owners to be sued for ADA not being in compliance with the ADA laws, but that it's also killing businesses. So they in September 2008, they put together Senate Bill 1608, which basically it engaged the CASP program. So CASP is Certified Access Specialist. Basically, they want to promote accessibility while giving the business owners some legal protection. So the idea is to hire a CASP to voluntarily come and inspect your property or facility, and we give you a written report of non-compliant items. That way, you're aware of what's non-compliant and gives you an opportunity to make those corrections.
So I can see there's two situations here. One, somebody buys a property, and we'll talk about that soon, but somebody buys a property and wants to know whether or not it's ADA compliant. But walk through the small business owner that all of a sudden gets a letter in the mail. Walk through that process. What typically happens? I own a small store. I get a letter from somebody. What's typically said in the letter, and what do I have to do at that point?
Well, first of all, locally, there's individuals here that will actually provide you that letter, but most cases you don't get that letter saying, "Hey, I was unable to access your facility." You're basically just served with a lawsuit, and that's how you're notified. But so
I have a small business, and all of a sudden I get a letter from, I guess there's an attorney in town that's.
Yeah, there's an attorney in town, and this particular attorney, he's I believe a paraplegic, and so he basically he sues individuals based on his own violations of his civil rights, where say for example there was not any parking for the disabled, or their ramps may have been too steep, or their building entrance wasn't accessible.
Right. So all of a sudden a lawsuit is served. Okay, they get a lawsuit. So typically business owners call you, they call an attorney. What do they what's the process?
Well, typically they would, once they're served the lawsuit, I think typically they call their attorney. My agenda is actually to help prevent that from happening in the first place. Once the attorneys are involved, they're kind of forced to make ramifications or settlements with the individual, and then also make the corrections needed to their facilities.
Right. And small business has maybe they rent the building. The landlord's not going to put money into the building. They're not going to redo the curbs. They're not going to. Is there a time frame, and what pressure is put on the landlord if somebody's renting? Is it a landlord responsibility? Is it the business responsibility? Who's ultimately ends up paying for that?
Well, there again, it depends on how the lease is written on their contracts. Typically, if a tenant is in a building and they've done improvements to their, they've done tenant improvements to their space or office or a restaurant, what have you, and they've made these improvements and they're not compliant. Well, they're definitely on the hook. Sometimes they're taken as is situation, and the property owners themselves are on the hook for those things.
So if you're listening to this conversation and you want to call in, if you're on either side, if you have a business that's been sued or you're a person with a disability and have experienced this from the other side, please give us a call at 339-1140 or 1-800-920-1140. We'd love to have some local input into the topic. Troy, one of the things that you had mentioned to me was that if I'm out there and I'm an investor, let's say, and I want to buy a building, right? And I go to buy that building and it's been operating for 20 years and I buy it, do I assume the liability? I mean, what happens with that? Do I need to know ahead of time whether it's ADA compliant? What issues do I need to be aware of?
Well, it's certainly a good idea to be aware of the ADA law or ADA issues going into the sale of that building. Often I get calls from investors and such that they're saying, "Hey, I'm looking to buy this property over here in Rockland, and can you come take a look at it?" I go do an evaluation, a report. That way they can include any improvements that may be necessary, negotiate those into the sell price, and have those issues addressed prior to finalizing the sale. And I do get people call me up and say, "Hey, I just bought this property. I've owned it for 60 days. Now all of a sudden I just got filed a lawsuit, and I don't even know where this came from."
How does that happen?
How does that happen?
I mean, I buy it. Is it because it's public record and
it's
the transaction? I mean, are there people out there watching transactions and all of a sudden I buy a building, it becomes public notice, and then I'm instantly sued?
It doesn't have. I don't think it has anything to do with the transaction itself. It just happens to be that the building is non-compliant, and now this person owns it, and
it's just a timing.
It's just a timing. It's just a total timing thing.
Well, great. I do have a question because I think one of the things that you had mentioned to me a few months back was if I come to you and I hire your firm and you're doing an audit or an inspection,
right?
I can't get sued during that time. I'm making a good faith effort at that point. So what protection does that do? I mean, beyond just finding out I need to do something, is there any protection while I'm getting the study done or getting the research done?
Yeah. Well, you got to keep in mind we do live in California, and I can't guarantee we won't be sued for things, but ultimately is what this Senate Bill 1608, the CAS program. It basically the goal is to achieve compliance with through a voluntary barrier removal plan, and part of that is without much difficulty or expense. So the goal is to I come to your facility, I do an evaluation. You may say, for example, there's $15,000 worth of repairs that need to be done. Well, I don't have that kind of money, and that's not readily achievable to me. So at that point, what we do is put together a transition plan. So we make it so that, okay, maybe this year we've hired our CASP, and maybe we can fix a ramp and put our signs up. Next year maybe we got to get our building entrance put together. Maybe next year we'll work on the restrooms. And so we put together a transition plan or to try to phase this out. And then we also give them a certificate that they can place in the window of their business, so that alerts everyone that they are engaged in a voluntary barrier removal plan, and that will help them.
So it kind of gives written notice to people, hey, look, we're already aware of it. We're working on it. Don't sue me during that time. Hey, let's do this. We need to take another quick break. I have a quiz question coming from Brad. Ross is on the phone. He does have a question about some building improvements. We'd love to take that after the break here. So, Brad, second quiz question. Go ahead.
All right. I better, again, assign the quiz question, guys. So police in Zurich last week confiscated how much in U.S. counterfeit bonds, or that figure was equal to what percentage of the U.S. debt?
Ooh. So there's a big bust in Zurich for some bonds.
And okay. how much in U.S. bonds?
How much in bonds, or what percentage?
What percentage of the U.S. debt would that equal?
Ooh, pretty big. Let me give out the numbers. Again, local 339-1140 or 1-800-920-1140. If you do call, be nice to our call taker. Marge is helping us today.